Hey, it's Mike from BumbleParrot, and this is a quick and easy intro to Swift's Async Await. So you heard of Swift's new Async Await feature and are wondering to yourself, what is it? Why do I care? And how do I use it in my app? In this video, I'll discuss the answers to those questions and more. So what is Async Await? It's a new feature in Swift 5.5 that's meant to address some of the problems that arise when adding asynchronous code to your app. To put this in perspective, let's take a moment to brief on the two most common patterns for making asynchronous calls in Swift. Let's start with delegation. Delegation should be one of the most familiar patterns to you, an iOS developer, because many of the basic UIKit APIs requires the use of this pattern. Some of the issues with the delegation pattern are: 1. You simply forget to set the delegate. Hello. How many times have you gone to wire up your UI table view only to forget to set the data source delegate? It's a simple fix, but it's an easy mistake to make when you're just starting out. 2. It's not always easy to follow and reason about what is happening in your code, especially when any object can conform to your delegates protocol. This can become more of an issue as your code base grows. Next up, we have completion handlers. Some of the issues with the completion handler pattern are: you may forget to call the completion handler on all possible paths. This is a similar issue as to forgetting to set the delegate. The result is the asynchronous call will finish, but never go back to resume or return the result to the call site. Callback hell. Callback hell. This is where your asynchronous code starts to become very confusing to read and unmanageable. This happens when you need to make a sequence of asynchronous calls with the start of the next call dependent on the previous one's result. Now that we know about some of the challenges with the current approaches, why should you care about Async Await? Because it's designed to help you write easier to maintain asynchronous code by being easier to read, giving pre-compile errors and warnings, and being easier to reason about. Here's a strategy around adding Swift's Async Await to your app. First, we need to find all the places in your code that are waiting on an asynchronous result. Second, we have to find if there's an updated version of that function that supports async await. Third, we need to update our code to use the async and await keywords where appropriate. This is what it looks like to use async await in practice. We start by noticing our code calls the URL session data task, which is an asynchronous function. Now we're going to check if there's an updated async await version of our data task function. Great, now we can rewrite the wrapper function without the need of any completion handlers. Instead of a completion handler, notice the async throws keyword right before the return type in the function signature. In our new wrapper function, we're going to call the updated URL session data function. Notice how this function's signature indicates async throws. This means we need to call it using try await. The rest of the code is further simplified by not needing to call completion handlers. In this case, we simply return the result or throw an error where appropriate. And finally, we wrap the call site in a task object. This way we can make an asynchronous call from a synchronous context. Notice at the call site that we have to call our new wrapper function with the try await keywords. Here's what the app looks like when we run it. The old method loads the top image, and the new async await method loads the bottom image. Notice how there's no difference in the results of the two methods. The real benefits are realized when comparing the code. You can immediately see how much simpler the code is with async await. And that's it. By refactoring your app's code to the new async await pattern, your code will read more clearly, be less prone to errors, and be easier to reason about. This was Mike from BumbleParrot. Now make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. Now get back to work. It's screen time! Quiet on the set, you.